Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is the 24th of April. I'm Nadine Blaney. Well, the local market is set to open fairly flat with ASX futures down just 4 points. It comes as U.S. markets finished lower in volatile trade as geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and mixed earnings hit recent momentum. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.36%, the S&P 500 down by about 0.4%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq led the losses down close to 0.9%. But that weakness comes after a strong run, with investors now locking in gains as hopes for a quick resolution to the Iran conflict fade, and oil hovers near $100 per barrel, so that keeps inflation risks front of mind. Earnings season remains broadly solid in the U.S. Over 80% of companies have beat expectations so far. While semis were hot, the software sector was not, reigniting concerns that AI disruption is starting to bite. IBM fell sharply after weaker software growth, and ServiceNow plunged on delayed deal-making. Tesla slipped after ramping up spending plans and after rising in after-hours trade yesterday. Avis Budget Group collapsed following a meme-like rally, and we saw that unwinding in a big way through the session. Now, the backdrop is dominated by global politics, escalation around Iran, including tensions in the Strait of Hormuz, and reports of air attacks pushed oil higher and dented sentiment overall. U.S. economic data was mixed. Jobless claims edged higher but remain relatively stable, while business activity picked up slightly, though that was largely driven by companies stockpiling on fears of supply disruptions and rising costs. Business activity in the Eurozone contracted in April. The S&P Global Eurozone Composite PMI fell to 48.6%, with the war sapping demand and rising prices. U.S. Treasuries slid, with investors wary of taking big positions. The benchmark 10-year yield was up around 2.6 basis points at 4.32%. The U.S. dollar rose and is on track for a weekly gain. The Aussie is sitting at 71.3 U.S., and the next important local economic release is Wednesday's quarterly inflation report. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump said Americans should expect to pay higher gas prices for a little while. That's a quote. Brent crude oil futures spiked $5 a barrel after reports that air defenses were engaging targets over Tehran. Brent paired gains settling at 105.07 a barrel. So that's a lift of about 3%. Gold prices fell to a more than 1 week low, pressured by worries that inflationary fallout from the Middle East conflict could keep interest rates higher for longer. And one we'll be watching today, Newmont. It reported in the U.S. It beat first quarter profit estimates, but flagged weaker output and higher costs in the second quarter. Iron ore futures were flat at $107 a ton. So here today, fairly quiet, but we will get quarterly production reports from the likes of PLS and IGO. And tonight in the U.S., we get the University of Michigan Consumer Confidence read. But the main driver of action, safe to say, will be headlines emanating from the Middle East. Well, that does it for the day ahead. I'm Nadine Blaney. We'll see you next week.